Hi, welcome to Russ's Kitchen. Here is my take on an absolute classic, Bolognese. I like to think that this would get a nod of approval from any Italian. It's not necessarily an absolutely authentic dish, but this is pretty close, and you can use this for Bolognese with spaghetti, with tagliatelle. You can also use this dish if you wanted to make a lasagna. Absolutely brilliant. It's going to take a long while to cook. You don't have to cook it for as long as I'm going to tell you, which is between 3 and 5 hours, which I know is a long time. You can cook it for about an hour, hour and a half to get some good results, but if you cook it longer, trust me, you'll be rewarded by massive flavour. Let's have a look and see what's going to go into my Bolognese. So first of all, we've got the beef. Now, as always, I've gone to my butcher and got some really good quality minced beef, about 500 grams. That's going to feed between 4 to 6 people. Bacon lardons, a carrot, celery, onion, some red wine, about 450 mils of beef stock, some passata, and just a pinch of nutmeg to just give it an extra depth of flavour. The first thing we're going to do is cut up this veg to get it all ready. There we have our onion, carrot and celery finely chopped, which has made our sofrito. I'm going to sweat that down with a little bit of butter in a heavy cast iron pan. If you want to, you can also add a little bit of olive oil to the butter. That will stop it from burning. So let's get this started. So our pan is on a low heat. I'm going to go in with a couple of knobs of butter. I'm not going to add any olive oil to this because I'm happy that that's not going to burn. And then in with the sofrito. I'm going to give that a stir around and just let that sweat down for about 5 minutes, 8 minutes, just so that those veg get nice and soft. Our sofrito has now been sweating down for about 10 minutes, so it's now getting nice and soft. We're going to turn the heat up quite a bit, and I'm going to go in with our bacon lardons. Now, if you don't have lardons, but you've got something like bacon that's left over in the fridge, you can use that. But it's now time to get that bacon nice and cooked with some nice colour on it. So our bacon has now got some nice colour on it. We're now going to keep the heat quite high, and we're going to go in with our beef mince. I'm going to break this up as I put it in. I'm not going to just put it in one big lump, because this way it's just going to make it easier to cook, and it's going to make it just a little bit quicker. So now we break that up. So our mince is now broken down, and it's got some really lovely colour on it. And we're now going to put in our red wine. Now, when you're using wine with meat, it's always a good idea to let the meat absorb the flavour of the wine. So we don't want to put anything else in it just yet. We want to let that bubble off, and we want to let the mince absorb the flavour of the wine. So whenever you're using meat and you're using wine or any other alcohol, allow the meat to actually absorb some of that flavour before you start adding anything else. It's still on quite a high heat, and as you can see, the wine is bubbling off, so we're actually bubbling off some of that alcohol that's in the wine. So there we go, that's all really nice, smells amazing. Next we're going to go in with our passata. Now there's lots and lots of different recipes for bolognese. Some of the recipes use just passata, some of them use chicken livers, some of them don't use beef stock at all, some of them will add milk, but this recipe I've found really works well. So we've got the passata going in. I'm just going to mix that round so that's all combined, and you can already see the colour is going to start getting really rich and looking really good. So that's the passata in. And lastly, we're going to add some of our beef stock. Now, I'm just topping it up slightly with the beef stock. I've used about half of the amount, and I'm going to keep the beef stock back because this, as I said before, is going to cook, well, I'm going to cook it for about 3 to 4 hours. If it starts to dry out, I've got the beef stock there, so I can just add a little bit more beef stock if I want to. So there we go, you can see the consistency, really good. At this stage I'm going to turn the heat right down and just add the last couple of ingredients, which is a little tiny bit of nutmeg. I'm using the handle of a teaspoon because all I want is a little tiny dash of nutmeg in there. Again, you're not going to notice it, but if it wasn't in there, you would. It's just going to give it another layer of flavour. Freshly ground pepper. I'm not adding any salt at this stage because the bacon lardons have got a lot of salt, but I can check the seasoning later on and add salt if I want to. But at this stage, that's all I'm going to do. Look at the colour on that, it looks really fantastic. Now, so I'm going to put the lid on. The heat is right down. That is going to cook away, like I say, 3 to 4 hours. If you don't want to cook it for that long, it's absolutely fine. Turn the heat up just a little bit and cook it for about an hour, hour and a half, but do keep your eye on it. Make sure it doesn't dry out. I'm going to come back to this in 4 hours. Here we are, 4 hours later. The bolognese is ready to serve. I could carry on cooking this for another hour, 2 hours. I can also make this a day in advance, even 2 days in advance, and then reheat it. The flavour is just going to get more and more intense. I checked the seasoning, it tastes absolutely amazing. You can also let this cool down, put it in the freezer, defrost it for whenever you like. Bolognese, serve it with spaghetti, serve it with tagliatelle, make a lasagna with it, fantastic. So, my take on a classic bolognese.